Welcome back to True Crime Lounge. We are continuing on with part two of our four-part mini-series called Doomsday Murders, the case of Lori Vallow-Daybell. This is part two. If you're new here, hit that like button, ring that bell for notifications. Also, please subscribe. So, why don't we start this episode off with first talking about the unaliving of Charles Vallow? Because we can't say the killing or murders, can we? But by February 2019, Lori reportedly informed Charles that she no longer cared about him or JJ, and she then vanished for 58 days. And that same month, Charles filed for divorce, citing threats to life. Now, as well as the belief that of his truck and about $35,000 from their joint bank accounts, according to Charles Fowling, Lori told him that he was possessed by a dark spirit called Ned Snyder, and that she was a god assigned to carry out the work of 144,000 at Christ's second coming, which would happen in July 2020, and that she would unalive him if he got in the way of her mission. Now, Charles sought a protective order against Lori. At the advice of his attorney, he withdrew the petition 1 month later, saying that he wanted to try to make the marriage work. Nevertheless, Charles had become so worried about Lori's actions that February 2019, he changed his $1 million life insurance policy so that the beneficiary would be his sister Kay rather than his wife. Now, Lori was unaware of this until after Charles's death. Now, the Arizona police detectives later retrieved text messages between Chad, Lori, and her husband, Alex Cox, and was referred to as Charles as Ned or Hipwas, and the name of the spirit said that he would said to possess him. Now, Lori told members of her religious group that her husband had become a zombie, and several followers repeatedly joined in prayer for Charles' defense. Now, having discovered that his wife was having an affair with a Mr. Chad Daybell, Charles confronted Lori about it 11 days before his death. He sent an email to Tammy to inform her that their spouses were cheating. Now, evidence later showed that Tammy had opened and deleted the message and blocked Charles's email address. And on July 1st, 2019, Charles and Lori had planned to meet Tammy in person, and at that point, Lori and Chad were communicating constantly with burner phones. And on July 11, 2019, Charles went to pick up JJ at Lori's home in Chandler, Arizona. Alex Cox was present, and an altercation occurred between where Cox shot and killed Charles, later claiming self-defense. Now, Cox alleged that he confronted Charles about abusing his sister and retrieved his gun in response to being struck by a bat. Now, Tylee told the police that she had witnessed part of the incident, but had ran away from the house with JJ before the shooting. No charges were pressed, and neighbors reported that later that day they heard a pool party with loud music at Lori's home. And everything. Now, interesting, right? You would think, oh, my husband was just shot, so maybe I need to lay low for a while. But no, let's just jump on having a pool party, shall we? Now Cox told Zalima that he did not feel bad because he had killed a zombie. Weird, right? I would think so. Now, before Charles's death, his attorney stated that he was primarily concerned for JJ's safety and well-being. And investigators would call this a romance novel. Are y'all okay? The storms were bad. Sorry, y'all. I was texting my mom to make sure my family was okay from the storms. They live in Alabama. I live in Tennessee, so I wanted to make sure that they were okay. We just got a lot of storms here the other night, so I did last night. So I was at work when a lot of it came through, so we just got a lot of rain from it, honestly. But I hope all y'all well. Anyway, but Charles was also concerned for Tylee, but he was unable to include her in her filing since she was not his biological daughter. Not only had he failed to legally adopt her, thus he had to no legal standing. Now, days after his death, Charles sent Lori a love story in the form of a series of text messages that investigators would call a romance novel. And today, and told the meaning of James and Alina in that Chaz substituted for himself and Lori, giving a detailed description of their sexual romance. Now let's talk about the disappearance of Tylee and JJ. Now, at the end of August, Lori relocated to Rexburg, Idaho, and with her children, Alex, who also moved there. Just before moving to Idaho, Lori sold JJ's service dog. Like, you don't see that as weird? Come on, lady. Now, when Lori and her children resided in Rexford, neighbors noticed that JJ's erratic behavior as Lori often left him without adult supervision for so long and for long periods of time. Now, when confronted about this, Lori did not mention that JJ was autistic, but she told the neighbors that he was her niece's drug baby. What the like what? Like what the hell? Like come on now. Now, Tylee was last seen September 8, 2019 at Yellowstone National Park with her brother JJ, her mother Lori, and her uncle Alex Cox. Now, she never enrolled at any school in Idaho, even though her mother claimed that she was attending BYU, Idaho. Now, by September 2019, a doorbell video captured JJ playing with a friend, the last known footage of him, and he attended Rexford Kennedy's elementary school September 20th. On September 22nd, Melanie and her boyfriend, David, were staying at Lori's home at 10:30. Word saw Alex take JJ, who was sleeping upstairs, to his room. This was JJ's last confirmed sighting, and on the next morning, JJ was absent. Lori told Lori told them that JJ had been misbehaving, and his uncle Alex picked him up. And on September 23rd, JJ had an unexcused absence from school. And the next day, Lori informed Rexfield Elementary that she would now be homeschooling. In the months that followed her children's disappearance, Lori kept collecting Social Security survivors' benefits to cash that each received after the death of their respective father. Now, in October 2019, 2 Venmo payments were made from Tylee's account to her older half-brother, Colby Ryan, with his love expressing messages attached. Now, which was the last time Colby had heard from Tylee. And when he expressed his concern toward Tylee via text, he received 2 responses from her cell phone indicating that she was safe and too busy to talk. And after repeated calls, Tylee would not answer. Colby became worried. Now, Brandon and Melanie later said that Lori and Chad were convinced Tylee and JJ were possessed and had become zombies. Now, Lazima testified that Chad had told his followers that JJ would die soon, only to come back as Colby's son. Yeah. You can see my face right now, you know what I'm thinking. Now, the FBI later uncovered text messages in which Lori and Chad discussed Tylee and JJ's possessions and mentioned a perfectly orchestrated plan to take the children. A text exchange between Lori and Alex Cox mentioning working on Z's and referring to zombies. Now, let's talk about the shooting of Brandon. On October 2nd, 2019, Brandon Boudreaux, the estranged husband of Lori's niece Melanie, was shot from a Jeep while driving in Gilbert, Arizona. The bullet missed his head by an inch, and he, who had been close to Charles and Lori, family recognized the Jeep's vehicle as used by Tylee Ryan. Now, the Jeep drove away, and Boudreaux could give up the license plate number, and the police identified it as being registered Charles Vallow. Now, Melanie had become very involved with her aunt's religious activities doings. In 2018, had insisted that she and her husband buy food stockpiles for the end of the world. Now, during the summer of 2019, she had demanded a divorce, which had not been finalized with Brandon was shot at. Now, Brandon said that he had been blindsided by a divorce request and he blamed it on Melanie's involvement with her aunt's cult. Now, and it has become known that Tylee and JJ were missing, and Brandon was convinced that Charles's death, the children's disappearance, and attempt on his life were all connected to Laurie's religious group. Now, in February 2010, Brandon filed a court document claiming that his attempt at the end of life was motivated by insurance money, and that there was a gunman that was probably Laurie's recently deceased brother, Alex Cox, and that Melanie um, were, was likely aware of Tylee and JJ's whereabouts. Now, by tracking Alex's phone data, investigators found out that Alex has searched the internet for directions to Brandon's address, and that he had been present near the Boudreaux home during the shooting. And on that day, Chad and Lori communicated severally, and Lori had made several internet searches about a shooting in Gilbert, Arizona. Excuse me. Now let's talk about the unaliving of Tammy Daybell. Now, in February 2010, Chad told his neighbors that Todd and Alice Gilbert that he had a vision that Tammy would pass away before her 15th birthday. And everything. And on October 19th, 2019, Tammy reported that just a line of brain. How was that work when most of it went through? Sorry, my mom. We're just checking and we just. But anyway, on October 19, 2019, Tammy reported being shot at in her driveway by a masked man who she thought was a paintball gun. And the man pulled the trigger several times, but the gun was apparently blocked. Unloaded. Now, police believe that this to be a prank and could not identify the man. 10 days later, Tammy was found dead in her home, apparently from natural causes, and Chad claimed that she had retired the previous night with a terrible cough and died in her sleep. He also said that Tammy had been experiencing low blood pressure, seizures, and negative reactions to homeopathic medicine, though nothing in her record supported this. Now, Tammy's funeral was organized in Utah 3 days later after her death. Alice Gilbert later said that she was surprised that the funeral came so soon and that it felt like it had been planned. And the Gilberts also testified that, unlike his children, Chad did not seem as devastated and acted in a business-like manner. Now, Chad's sister-in-law, Heather Daybell, said that Chad's behavior at her funeral did not ring any bells and just didn't seem upset. Now, Jason Grolian and said that Chad was nothing but trying was not crying but trying to cry. And during the service, Chad mentioned in his talk that Tammy would suffer from depression and commented that she has not been easy to live with, and later called her lazy. And according to police reports, Chad would receive life insurance payouts, but after Tammy's death, totaling about $430,000. Now, Tammy's body was later autopsied initially due to Chad's refusal, and the coroner's accepted the decision, and now was not autopsied. Let me rephrase that. However, after Tammy's death, it was exhumed in autopsies, and it was determined that she had been asphyxiated by someone else. And the autopsy was completed February 2021. Was not publicly revealed until April 23 during Lori's now, claiming that Tammy was in limbo and possessed by a spirit named Viola. And at some point, Chad and Lori told their followers that Tammy had become a zombie, and Alex's phone was located near the Daybells, and everything. And it pinged in the same area 10 days later that on the night of Tammy died, police found Alex's found police found at Cox's home an AR-15 that resembled the description that Tammy had made and everything. Now, makes matters worse, though police now Alex had made several internet searches about the use of the AR-15, and on the Grendel round would impact a Dodge Dakota, which was from the car of the Daybell's own. Now, prosecutors later said that the paintball gun spotted by Tammy on October 9th was a real gun, and that it had jammed or misfired. Now, using the shooter was probably Alex, and Zalima testified that she had been with Lori and her niece Melanie to a casting on the night of Tammy and was attacked in the driveway. And at the same time, that night, Lori talked about was talked with someone on the phone with very angry, calling the other person idiot, moron, and stupid. After hanging up, she would go on to say, "Idiot can't do anything by himself." Yeah, but that is it for part 2. Join me next time as we talk about the marriage and the flight investigation and more. I'll see y'all next time.